From the heart of Central Florida, you are listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, David Gornoski. Glad to be with you here live today on WHBO 1040 AM, News Talk Florida. If you're joining us live in Tampa Bay, make sure you set the dial for 1040 AM for weekdays. Monday through Friday, we're here with you. And you're always going to want to be in touch with what we're unpacking, because we go beyond the headlines, we go beyond the talking points, the regurgitated groupthink that you hear from so many programs, unfortunately, and we really dissect things and get you the truth at the heart of the matter. That's what A Neighbor's Choice is all about, and I'm happy to do that with you once again. And, you know, in the headline news, you're always going to have times when it gets really tiring, right? You get tired of hearing negative information. You get to, one of the things that I ask folks a lot, you know, for how, if they're happy with their news media consumption habits, is how does it make you feel when you turn on your favorite program to watch? How do you feel when you listen to, whether it's a radio program or a podcast show or your favorite newscast on television or a YouTuber or blogger? When you watch those programs, how does it end up making you feel when you engage it? Do you feel better off? Do you feel motivated to do great things after you spend time, whether it's an hour or 2 or 30 minutes, perhaps multiple hours, engaging in your typical news media consumption? Now, those on the right in talk radio land will talk about how, of course, you know, the news media is leftist. And that's pretty clear to see that there's a clear, overwhelming perspective and a kind of groupthink mentality that is pervasive in our media. And I think that it's something that we can see is in the direction of a particular variety of politics, which is not interested in civil discourse in their media outlets, not interested in a free debate. But when you watch these programs and you consume them, whether it's weekly or daily, however much you consume them, it's hard to take a positive experience away from the media that you engage in today's atmosphere. The news tends to always go in the direction of being highlighting negative news, highlighting negative stories that bring out bad information, dark information, information which is sensational, information which riles up passions, information which riles up anger, paranoia, suspicion, all those feelings. And of course, conservative media is right to point out that much of the institutional media, as I mentioned, whether it's television or newspapers or social media curators, tend to be very, very rigged in their refereeing of information, to say the least. But even when you engage in much of non-leftist media, how often do you feel motivated after engaging it? How often do you feel inspired or empowered to do something in life that's good? I've consumed media for years, and it's very rare when I have consumed a piece of news media that analyzes news and current events and world affairs in any political perspective and come away feeling nourished or feeling inspired or feeling fired up to do things myself in life, right? Usually the feeling you feel, whether it's someone that you agree with in their politics or not, there's this fixation on negativity, on the negation of something in life, right? So the negation of, if you're watching conservative media, of course, what's the number one thing they want to negate daily? It's liberals, Democrats, leftists, progressives, whatever the word is. The second thing would be maybe government interference, but that's not nearly as important as negating whatever Democrats are doing with their power. Number one thing is you're against the left. And that's what you're going to hear every day you turn on that information. You're going to hear things and data presented in a way that is against the left. That doesn't mean it's true or not true. It just means that's the story you're going to hear. You can count on it. And then secondarily, you'll hear against most government institutional power. It doesn't translate into any, when Republicans have had power, let's say in the Bush years when they had all the House, the Senate, the presidency, Supreme Court majority, doesn't translate into reduction of power in any shape or form. It's just expansion. But nevertheless, you get that kind of message. It's a negation. It's a negative message. But you don't feel empowered. You don't listen to, people go on and on and on and on about what some awful governor or some awful politician said today on either side, or what some awful prosecutor's going to do or not do, and how corrupt everything is, and how our society isn't as civilized or decent as it used to be in the good old days, whatever that good old days is for people. For the left, the good old days was when Obama was in power, magically. How's that? But then for some on the right, the good old days was Reagan, or the good old days was in the 50s, or, for some, maybe it's the 40s, the 30s, who knows, But regardless, it's always a message that makes you feel apathetic about your own personal agency and its ability to enact change. The only takeaway point that most media will give you to act on, of course, is to act on the advertising that's going on. That's okay. But also to act on their message with voting. Vote for this team, or vote for these kind of ideas, this kind of tribal signification. If you hear these signals of what we believe in and vote for that. That's kind of your takeaway homework, is vote. Some of them, not as often, we'll call your congressperson and tell them to push a bill or something. That's not as common, but that does happen on occasion. But the only takeaway action you typically hear is get mad, don't like the other side, and vote to do something about it. I wonder how actually connected to reality that is. I wonder how much of a change something of that message, if that's the takeaway point, is primarily, okay, everything's bad, we need to stop doing this is bad, the culture's this is bad, these guys are corrupt, the good guys never win. How much of that do you think is ever shaped or changed in any significant way with your takeaway point of just go vote? Just go vote. Vote for midterm, vote for president, vote for local office. Just pick a team, don't like the other group, and act in a political manner, and that's your solution. Is that really the only solutions we have in front of us? Let's explore that when we continue. I'm David Gornoski. You're listening live to A Neighbor's Choice. Don't go anywhere.
A lot lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania and Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania and Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania and Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Attorney spokeswoman.
The one thing that we've learned from an epidemic is that if we are healthy, we are far less likely to be susceptible to grave sickness. With that stated, stem cell activation is a big part of keeping ourselves healthy. By activating your own stem cells, you'll experience energy, better sleep, reduction in pain, and a support system that supports faster healing from wounds. LifeWave X39 patches are an easy, cost-affordable way to activate stem cells. Clinical studies demonstrate that LifeWave patches reset the genes in the body to a younger, healthier state. By wearing the daily patch, your body will activate the stem cells to give you benefits of a better way of living a healthy, productive life. Go to lifewave.com/B radio to see how you can elevate, activate, and regenerate your life with stem cell therapy. There's a special offer now with B Radio. The address again is lifewave.com/B radio. Live healthier and wiser with the X39 LifeWave patches at lifewave.com/B radio.
Thinking about buying a new home while interest rates are at historic lows? Call Century 21 Coast to Coast, Kimberly Clark. Put Kimberly's 16 years of experience, area knowledge, and integrity to work for you to find your perfect home in your price range. Click Kimberly, the People's Choice Realtor for Pinellas at PinellasHomesForSale.com or call her today at 727-279-3759. That's 727-279-3759.
Have you hired a business that didn't deliver the results you were looking for? Are you fed up with misleading sales pitches or just not getting the customer service you want? Check out Harbor Bluff's Living Magazine and Network the next time you need to hire either a lawyer, realtor, construction crew, or even a personal trainer. Harbor Bluff's Living Magazine and Network will help you find the right business for all your needs. And you'll work with people that truly care about you as well as giving back to the community. So for the right hire, visit HarborBluffsLiving.com.
It's all blame games. It's all scapegoating. It's all political chicanery. That's all you hear from politics. You don't ever hear a positive thing that you can take away, something that you can say, you know what, I can do something about this in my life. And so I think it's time for us to reconsider how much we invest our time with so much of the news programs out there, the newspapers and television programs, where you get the same old same, though. same old, same old. Everything's bad. Everything's negative. You feel powerless. You feel angry. You feel bitter. You feel distrustful. And what is that converted into? It's converted into 2 action points. Buy the products, which that's fine. Okay, got a product to sell. And number 2, vote for the team that they're promoting. I don't see that as anything that's worthwhile in terms of our long-term success. I don't see that as something that inspires us to do great things. I see in quite the opposite, actually. I see that all that does is paralyze us with cynicism. I see that as something that is a recipe for exactly the kind of problems that we continue to experience every day. A Neighbor's Choice is a different kind of program. A Neighbor's Choice, the program you're listening to now, we're more interested in a mission, not complaining. Look, there's plenty to complain about, and we'll do ours when there's wrong problem, when there's bad stuff. When corruption needs to be explored, when evil laws need to be dissected, when bad actions and bad cultural habits need to be challenged, we'll be there. But the notion that somehow we're going to leave you there, we're going to just convert that negativity, the negation of all the bad ideas out there, or bad laws or bad policies, that converts into the same old, tired old formula, which is blaming somebody else, pointing the finger at some other tribe, some other party, some other candidate, and cast all the shame, all the failure onto them and the voters that they are associated with or culturally in line with, and that's supposed to get you what you want. But we've been doing that for decades, and it doesn't give us anything we want. We've been playing this formula for decades, for generations even, in various ways. And it's only gotten worse. It's only gotten uglier. It's only gotten more unsatisfying. To the point where now, the elections seem like they're going to be fought over who's going to go to jail and who's going to get the loot. I mean, that's where we're at. That's a degradation of an advanced society. So my point is that I want us on this program to be encouraged to look for positive, actionable things to get excited about. There are plenty of programs that make you feel powerless and make you feel cynical. But what about having a program, and what about having a conversation, more importantly, in our society about the means to success, the means to win, not just win against somebody, but to win-win, where everybody wins. If we have cures for diseases that scare us all, that's a win-win. It doesn't matter who your party is, doesn't matter your nationality, your religion, your gender. If cancer is destroyed with something that's pretty much pennies on the dollar of what we currently use to treat these things, and perhaps non-toxic and something available for everyone, that's a win-win for everyone. Who could complain? Of course, there'd be some weirdo that would complain, and the people who profit off of the old paradigm of whatever have been used against this disease. But everybody else, which is basically all of humanity, including the people who profit off of bad ideas for treatments, in the current paradigm, all of them would stand to benefit from better, more effective solutions for something like cancer that are affordable for everyone, that don't require insurance to afford, doesn't require a government handout to pay for, and it's something that everybody can enjoy. That's a win-win solution. When have you heard a news program talk about that? they'll cite some random sensationalized study about one little thing, but there's no concerted effort to investigate and find the truth and to highlight people out in the wilderness of science doing the hard work to help solve something so scary as a big disease like that. And so we have to learn to train our minds towards the positive and towards things that we can actually get behind and not have to scapegoat someone in the process. Who do you need to scapegoat in order to solve a disease using a revolutionary technology or innovation in the marketplace? Who needs to be blamed? I mean, you can point out the corrupt people that stand in the way, but no one needs to go to, no one needs to be destroyed and go to jail or something for a new innovation to come out. In order for politics to succeed, somebody has to be destroyed. Somebody has to go to jail. Somebody has to be taken down. Somebody has to be taxed. Somebody has to be put out of business. Somebody has to lose political power. That's the way that kind of tit for tat, win, lose, zero-sum approach goes. But in the world of innovation, in the world of creativity, we have a better opportunity. We have a way to say, you know what, I don't have to keep focusing on negative. I can look for positive. I can look for what I can contribute and add to serve those around me, serve my family, serve my friends, serve my neighbor, serve my enemy. Because if someone creates a cure for an illness that bothers us all, that includes the enemy that person will have access to that option as well. But we don't believe in those things anymore. And I think some of that is because we continue to gravitate towards negative media that does nothing but highlight blame and castigate shame and tear down, instead of looking for something to build, looking for a mission, looking for a dragon to slay that doesn't involve slaying our neighbors, but slaying a thing of nature like illnesses, and working together unified in defeating that illness in a win-win solution, something that we don't even think about as much anymore, but we should. If we have the courage to challenge the institutional dogmas of our scientific fields, which are propped up by politics, if we have that courage to take those things on, we will have the ability to see it through and to move into a better direction. We're going to have the opportunity to actually take on and eliminate awful chronic illnesses and acute illnesses, but it takes having the ability to say no to the established dogmas of science and political power that props them up. We'll continue live on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornoski.
Special report, coronavirus update. California's Governor Gavin Newsom says most of his state may now qualify for businesses like dine-in restaurants to reopen.
Roughly 53 of the 58 counties would be eligible to move into this phase. Again, not everyone will move into this phase, and that eligibility is conditioned on the criteria.
Drug maker Moderna says a small first test of its vaccine candidate has been encouraging. Medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen explains.
They gave people vaccination at various levels, and they found that even at the lower levels, that these volunteers in the studies, they developed what are called neutralizing antibodies. So these are antibodies that not only bind with the virus, but actually keep it, sort of disable it from attacking human cells.
That news helped propel the Dow Industrials today to a better than 900-point gain. I'm Jan Johnson.
Right now, home sweet home has never been sweeter. Our homes are more important than ever, and finding people we trust to take care of them is just as important. For over 20 years, Home Advisor has been connecting homeowners with trusted local plumbers, electricians, roofers, and more. And now we're making it easier than ever for great pros to join the Home Advisor network. For a limited time, home service businesses can get $200 in free advertising. Visit homeadvisor.com/start200 for details. That's homeadvisor.com/start200.
While you can't believe everything on social media these days, you can believe it's possible to start a new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months from the comfort of your own home, even if you have zero computer experience. Instead of waiting to see what happens when life gets back to normal, take control of your future now. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. Live online classes meet just twice a week. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
A lawsuit is a devastating process for families. It can be an emotional roller coaster ride. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that practices with this in mind. That law firm is Catania and Catania. We know and handle personal injury law for families with care. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania and Catania will take care of the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't even realize they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to us. Catania and Catania only represent private individuals. We treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's our way of practicing law. It's our commitment to you. Remember, we don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning, over 28 years, and family first. Catania and Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Attorney spokeswoman.
Soaring high across the Sunshine State, a neighbor's choice returns. I'm David Gornoski, and so I'm exploring this idea with you live about how we can cultivate the earth using our freedom. Politics is the domain of cynicism. Politics is the domain of blame and shame, and that never gets us anywhere. May make you feel momentarily good when you see your rival taken down a notch or shamed or beaten in an election. But at the end of the day, it doesn't actually do anything that really lasts. What lasts is ultimately what comes from a free society. And a free society is when people are allowed to question things without censorship, without being destroyed, and they're able to innovate and create without having government regulators or universities capture and mutate their voices or destroy or muzzle their findings using a sycophantic press that likes the status quo. So we've got some challenges for sure, but we've got to be able to start talking about solutions that are actually win-win. We've got to be able to start talking about solutions that can be something that our generations and generations after us hopefully can see through. Two of the things that I think are the biggest, and it's one of the reasons why I emphasize these topics a lot on my program, are two of the biggest areas that I think the forces of politics, the forces of cynicism, get most of their energy from in the public, are the fear of health, of medical issues, healthcare. We see that playing out right now over the last few months. And then the other one is the environment and the state of the planet, the safety and the health of the planet, and the health of us being involved in pollution or so-called dirty fuels and things like that. which perhaps they are dirty. Perhaps some of the fuels we have are not good for our health. But I think those two issues, healthcare and, how we treat the planet, how we treat the environment that we're in, are two of the biggest narratives or stories that those who want more and more government coercion to run our lives and to police our every thought and to police and shape our media discourse and to do so much to control and tax and regulate and subsidize and quarantine and all these different little things are resting upon this narrative that the only solution for health care and earth care, which is tied to health care, right, is a massive surrender to government and its corporate and private crony allies. To just hand them the keys to our freedom, what's left of it, and say, look, I need you to save us from this catastrophe. And it's precisely those two areas that I think those who imitate the role model of Jesus, we should have a much better answer for in the public square. Which is to say, when it comes to health care, we don't want to sit there and say we are content to defend the status quo. The status quo is a rigged healthcare system. The status quo is great in many, many ways, and we're thankful for the innovations and the wonderful things that have come around with modern technology and decades of, medical research for solutions to illnesses. But so much of it has been perverted and retarded by regulatory capture by special interests. And so the left, they typically say, well, big business and big government, well, they're involved in healthcare, but they would say big business is evil, so therefore we need more government control to stamp out the evil of business, and it needs to be done through voting for our people or, demanding change in other ways, whatever. The second, thing that those on the right will say is, yeah, big government, big business are involved in healthcare. We just need a little bit more power for big business and a little bit less for big government. Just squeeze down the ratios a little bit, and then everything should be better. So they get pinned oftentimes as being more defending of the status quo, as if somehow what we have is a market. We don't have a market. We have a heavily regulated, heavily subsidized, heavily government rigged and dictated and controlled and warped healthcare system. So into that conversation, those who want to imitate Jesus can say, well, wait a second, what's our choice here? Is our choice to look at our neighbor as the Good Samaritan and say they need health care, but we're just going to fiddle with the ratios, put a little bit more power in businesses' hands and shrink government just a little bit, and that'll fix it? And so you'll hear things like, yeah, let people buy insurance from across state lines and little things that are good, but I mean, is that really the big enchilada here? I mean, we've got a system in which you've got an FDA system that requires $1 billion to pay for the regulatory compliance that they want, and 10 to 15 years to go through that process, which de facto eliminates anything you can't patent because you can't afford $1 billion price tag by a government gatekeeper and then hope to make a profit if you front that bill up front, and then everybody and their brother can sell that same product that's natural and not patentable. So de facto, off the top of the beginning point, you have a distortion that greatly mutates where dollars flow in the healthcare sector. Dollars are going to flow towards things which can be patented, like new chemicals, right? And that means research and double-blind studies and peer-reviewed papers are going to operate under paradigms which are biased towards looking for patentable solutions. That is not science. That's political mutation of the frame of what science is, which fundamentally rots the core, right? You can have the greatest genius minds working on a topic or a problem or an illness. But if at the foundation of the core, you have a totally rigged system, which is predicated towards biasing research dollars into things that can be patented, then the profit motive incentive will be distorted over and above the consumer incentive, right? Because here's the thing that they don't tell you in school, in public school. Markets and freedom are not about obscene profits. They're about what consumers need too, right? Consumers are not going to buy an overexpensive $10,000 drug if it doesn't work as well as a $2 drug that gets the person who makes it, $1 in profit of each unit sold. So it's not about obscene profit margins. Obscene profit margins only usually typically come about in the most common sense of when we see it in our daily lives, where a market has been mutated and regulated in a way that stacks the decks against competitive pressures, into new ideas, into innovation and disruptive practices, which would shrink the rent-seeking behaviors and power of the established cronies that run the system and their regulatory friends. So, off the bat, just thinking here about what someone who wants to imitate Jesus would do, you would not think about, okay, what kind of program can we put together as some kind of institutional procedure for everybody to follow, but rather you would look at your neighbor suffering through a disease, a chronic illness or an acute illness, and say, what can I do right now with my own skin in the game to help that person? How can I help my neighbor? And a lot of this is something that we're debating right now. We're debating this about when it comes to whether to wear masks or not wear masks, whether they should be mandated or not mandated. I can tell you one thing, mandates are not compatible with Good Samaritan ethics. I can tell you that for sure. The idea of mandating something with the threat of violence has no compatible place within a person trying to imitate the way of dealing with problems as Jesus does. So that so you can wear a mask and there's an argument to be made that if your brother or your neighbor is concerned about their health and they would rather you have a mask, then you can voluntarily wear that mask to help that neighbor if you know them and they don't want you to wear that, right? You should wear it if that's what they're asking you to do. Or whatever it is that the neighbor needs you to do to help them, if that's what you're called to do. But the idea of implementing a bureaucratic, sterilized, detached, and vicious, ultimately, coercion mechanism. You shall wear the mask. You shall have your name on a list, and it should be tracked and traced and monitored and apps, and you have to do all these things. That has no place in a civilized society. That's a shortcut to heaven. The heaven is the goal to make sure everybody is okay, but it takes a shortcut there, which leads to hell on earth, which is where families and neighbors start to tear each other apart in blame and suspicion and accusation and self-righteousness and tribalism, mask versus unmasked. All that stuff happens when you introduce coercion into the mix. But in general, someone who wants to imitate Jesus should see the milieu of diseases and say, we got to roll up our sleeves and solve these problems ourselves. We cannot rely on some kind of bureaucracy or some kind of somebody else, Mr. Fix-It to fix it. That means we got to do the research we need to find out, first of all, how we should live. Should we eat the food pyramid, for example? Or, if Hippocrates is correct, let food be thy medicine. How should food inform our foundation of our immune system? If we're eating inflammatory vegetable oils and inflammatory high amounts of carbohydrates, especially processed carbs, what's going to happen to our body? What's going to happen when a new virus like the one we're dealing with comes on to the scene? The folks who are having the hardest time with this new virus are folks who basically ate an indulgent level of the food pyramid type recommendation. Lots of grains, lots of vegetable oils, lots of carbohydrates. Of course, sugar is a big thing. As to one of the one things that folks tend to say don't eat, even in established circles. But it's also the things they don't tell you to do, like eliminate the vegetable oils and the carbohydrate massive quantities that they have pushed for so long in the food pyramid. They don't tell you that. And so as a result, humans suffer. Our neighbors suffer. So you can't tell your neighbor the truth about what's the proper way of eating unless you do that research yourself and learn about that. Learn what's the most healthiest way to stay in your body on a normal day-to-day basis as your baseline. Because if you get that right, you might get some of the foundations of solving chronic illnesses right. And then from there, you have to be able to seek out and have discernment to be able to find researchers in the field of medicine in various fields who are doing things which actually are based in logic, based in reason, based in evidence, not based in just going along with the established consensus of how to solve something. So, for example, taking the cancer field again, that is a field that is highly dominated by folks that think that that's a genetic disease primarily, that you got to focus on genetic-based research, and all of the money in that field tends to go towards finding new drugs, which can be patented, of course, that deal with this issue from a genetic standpoint. They've been doing this for decades. I don't see how they've really progressed that much since then. The other side, which is a minority report, which doesn't get much media attention, doesn't get much government grant research, if at all, is a report which has been out for decades, but is just now starting to get more attention with the rise of the internet and more decentralized media information. And that is that cancer is primarily a disease of the mitochondria, which is the energy battery, the energy producer, little battery type organ in the cell, or however you want to call it, that functions to provide energy and regulation of energy for the cell. Another way of saying it is it's a metabolic approach. You're dealing with the metabolism, how energy is produced and managed in the body. That is actually the foundation for exploring the solutions for cancer. Right now, that voice, that perspective, I believe, is right on the money. It's right on target. But there's no political money, and there's no political power, there's no big media apparatus, no CBS, NBC, ABC giving them a voice. So what has to happen? You and I have to do the research, look at that perspective, and then weigh the evidence and use discernment to say whether we need to amplify this voice, whether we need to invest in donations to their research, or share their voices, do something. If you want to be a new upcoming doctor, maybe get into that field and keep exploring the mitochondrial metabolic paradigm of cancer research. That's just one example. Let's continue live on A Neighbor's Choice to find out more.
Psst, are you in trouble? Look, even good people make mistakes. If this sounds like you, call our dear friend Jay Hebert at the Hebert Law Group. Now is when you need to recruit the strongest player there is to wear your team colors. Jay has represented some of Tampa Bay's most prominent citizens, celebrities, and athletes, and tried many high-profile cases. So even if it's a speeding ticket that has you losing sleep, call the Hebert Law Group at 727-573-2622 for a free consultation, or log on to HEBERTlawgroup.com. Jay and his team will not only help you navigate the complex courtroom system, they'll help you stay out of trouble. 727-573-2622. 727-573-2622. The Hebert Law Group. Offices Clearwater.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood, and the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
If you know anything about NFL or about NCAA basketball or football or NHL or whatever, entertainment television, make sure you make a deposit at betdsi.com.
Promo code Bubba100.
Again, make a deposit. They've been getting a lot of great response from the Bubba Army. Make your deposit using promo code Bubba100. It's simple. Go to betdsi.com.
Promo code Bubba100.
Sign up with the Bubba100 code and make that deposit and get your bonus, plus have some fun at the safest wagering site available. Fast, on-time paying their winnings out, incredibly mobile-friendly. And if you haven't already signed up, then go now. Make your deposit at betdsi.com.
Promo code Bubba100.
Bubba100 gets you a special bonus and gets you in the game. Again, www.betdsi.com, and at the promo code portion,
Bubba100.
Bubba100. Thank you.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornoski. So, my encouragement to you is that we learn to tune out negative, same old media voices because they cloud our judgment. They distort the range of possible actions we have available to us. Our choices are not limited to just buying products that are advertised to us and voting for some team that never seems to pan out the results that they actually are going to accomplish. I know that everybody listening can cite 10 examples of what their favorite politician has done that they said they would do. But by and large, we all know deep down that when you vote for the Republicans, they say they're going to get government smaller. They raise Cain about the level of debt, and then the debt blows up and government gets bigger than ever. And we know that when we vote for Democrats, they tell you big business is the worst thing in the world. It needs to be disciplined. Wall Street's out of control. And what happens? Big business and Wall Street get bigger under their watch when they win. So no matter who you vote for, big government gets bigger, big business gets bigger. Nothing changes, right? So my suggestion is that we treat politics as kind of like just tune it out as much as possible. You don't be totally ignorant of it, because politics kind of has a way of creeping up on you and getting its tentacles in your life. But the best political action you can do is when you're on a jury, not in the voting booth, but in the jury booth. It's in the jury booth that you can use your power that the founders designed with the jury system to strike down unjust, tyrannical laws. So if you feel like a law is unjust and tyrannical, get on a jury and use the founders' intended power for you as a citizen, which is to judge not just the facts of a case, but the moral basis and justification for a law and its attached sentences as well. You don't like the drug war, get on a jury and make sure that you send a signal that this is unconstitutional and it's an unlawful use of government power. You don't like raw milk, get on a jury. If you don't like people being arrested for, cutting hair during a lockdown using safety precautions, get on a jury. That has way more direct, actionable results when you want to talk about a political thing you can do in your life to really change somebody's life and really send a signal that has, in my opinion, more power and more weight with it than typical voting contests. And if you want to vote, that's fine too. But let's not let ourselves be deceived that voting somehow is the solution to what we need. We need to cultivate the earth. In the Bible, we have the story of Genesis, which begins in a garden, and then you have the last book, Revelation, which ends in a city. So the trajectory of that anthology of books is from a beautiful garden that gets spoiled, that gets tainted. But through the trajectory of history, human beings end up making a beautiful city that restores the best of the garden and incorporates development, incorporates cultivation of the land into technology. A city is that which is technologically cultivating of the good creation around us. And so I would suggest that we really have a lot of exciting things to work on, that if we would just spend a little more time on doing research, we might be able to solve big illnesses, big diseases, and see them into the rearview mirror of history. See them and say, oh, wow, I can't believe we passed that so quickly once we got our act together and had a mindset that we can do it, that we can take it on. And the same goes for things like pollution and environmental degradation. Again, the two things that I think most people are at least the future, the generations, the younger generations are resolved to give government massive power over our lives, is the belief that they're the only ones that can solve the healthcare problem. That's wrong. And number two, they're the only ones that can solve pollution problems. I believe that there are multiple pathways to exploring energy that's too cheap to meter. But those pathways won't be coming from big government bureaucracies and big fancy elite universities. They will come from brilliant Galileos. Those are people who are challenging the established status quo. And they'll come from the bottom up. They'll come from the private sector. They'll come from small community colleges or small universities or colleges that are not as well established and politically financed by the elites. So there is a pathway to renewing the earth, cultivating the earth with energy too cheap to meter, with energy that may not create carbon emissions or may not create pollution that can hurt our bodies if we breathe it in and breathe in the phytochemicals from the exhaust. And that maybe we could create an energy system that doesn't rely on the whims of foreign powers and us pleasing them and using our military as their personal tool to fight off regional powers. That's what we're doing now, and shame on that for being the case. But maybe, just maybe, if we think for ourselves and we let go of the fear of being different, of being uncouth, of being unfashionable, of saying, you know what, I want liberals, Democrats, progressives, everybody to benefit because we need a clean earth, but it's not going to happen through bureaucracy. It's going to happen through the courage to do something radically different, to understand that there are secrets of nature that we can master in a beautiful way. I'm David Gornoski. Remember, perfect love casts out all fear. Fear is the political world. Love is what you and I can do when we look for win-win solutions that serve our neighbor as we would like to be treated. Godspeed.